Hi everybody, this is Mr. Rumsey. I'm back in my home dojang or dojo. I'm here today to talk about the differences between a strike and a punch. Now, let's talk about the commonalities first. The most common thing you'll see in every type of attack is that at the end of your technique, no matter if it's a kick or a punch or even a slap, all of your joints, all of your strike points will be aligned at the very end. Now, the big difference between a punch or a thrusting motion and a strike or a hinge motion is that with a punch or a thrust, two of my joints are constantly aligned with my target. So for example, with a jab, I take my hand and I point it at my target. Boom. I have two joints, and then whenever I fully extend, my shoulder is the last joint to lock in, but now they're all aligned. My wrist and my elbow stay aligned the entire time, and then my shoulder is the last one to connect. Now, with a kick, let's take a push kick, just a basic, Spartan kick. Whenever I do this, my ankle and my knee are pointed at the target while my hip is chambered. My hip needs to be chambered so I can thrust it out. And then now, at the end of my motion, all three of these joints are aligned. Think of your hips as your shoulders for your legs. Now, for a strike or a hinge technique, your joints only line up at the very end. So for a slap, every mother is a master of this, every child fears this. All of your joints start out here. You use your chest muscles to bring in your arm, then you connect. Now, all three of my joints line up at once. And when I punch, two of my muscles are already lined. So, a slap, all of my muscles line up all at once, all at the very end. And with a punch, two of my muscles already lined up. We'll take an uppercut too. Once we do an uppercut, we have wrist, elbow aligned. Then, whenever I thrust out, depending on how light the person is or how movable they are, then my shoulder can either use it as a hinge or twist and turn that uppercut into a low punch. With our kicks, we have the basic roundhouse kick. We line up our joints at the very end and they all snap together. That gives our technique its power, that snap at the very end with that hinge technique. Because if I left one of my joints chambered or not aligned, let's take, for example, let's say I keep my knee bent the entire time, and I twisted everything else. That had no power. Or let's say I leave my ankle really loose. I break my foot. So, with every type of hinge motion, we want to make sure that at the last second, we can have our joints loose throughout the motion to cause speed, but if we don't connect it and line them up at the very end and put strength into our joints, then we're going to injure ourselves. Now, with our thrusts, we want to have our first two joints tightened already. We don't want them loose, like with a strike, because our speed comes from the joint that isn't activated yet. So we leave our shoulder loose. We can tighten up our wrist so that whenever we make contact, we don't break our hand. And then we can tighten up our elbow because that's the thing that's moving us forward. Now, whenever I connect, that's whenever I tighten up my shoulder. So I can cause more power by leaving my shoulder loose and then fully connecting and locking it out and adding as much strength behind it as I can. Now for all of these techniques, I want to use my core as the main source of my strength with all of these twisting. There's a reason they call it the core, because it's the core of all of your movements. And if you have any doubts about your speed or your power, you might want to work on your core. Thank you for watching and have a great day.